Hey YouTube, it's Kevin with Cruisin' with Wheels, and today we have two special guests. My BFF, Jo.
Hi.
And her puppy, Carter. And Jo has two YouTube channels.
I do.
She has Puppy with a Passy.
Well, Carter has Puppy with a Passy.
Well, Carter has Puppy with a Passy. And the other YouTube channel is Adult Onset Runner.
Yes, Adult Onset Runner.
And those are two passions of hers, as well as travel.
Yes.
So today she's going to help us through some questions regarding travel insurance.
Be happy to.
Because not only is she an excellent teacher, a great mother to Carter, passionate about running and travel, but she's also an independent travel consultant?
Yes, independent travel consultant with Rochester Travel Group in Rochester, New York.
Yes.
We work worldwide.
We live in Rochester, New York, and right now is the blizzard of the century. So
at least of the week.
Yeah, of the week.
Tomorrow's the Ides of March, right? And it is state of emergency, snowing like crazy outside.
So what did we think to do? A YouTube on travel insurance.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, because if you do get in a state of emergency like this, you're not guaranteed that you're going to be covered just by the kindness of the hearts of the travel industry. That you want to make sure you protect yourself and keep your own interests in mind. So I love sharing about travel insurance. Thank you for inviting me, because a lot of people make assumptions about it and don't look into it, don't investigate it, and I like helping people. That's why I do the things I do.
You know what they say about assuming.
Yes.
So we never will assume. Mm-hmm. I will never assume.
Yeah.
But
it's hard sometimes. Sometimes you're right. Sometimes that's not even about assuming. I know when it comes to travel insurance, sometimes it's you found the great deal. You're looking at the website, and
there's that little box. Click me.
Right. It says click for insurance, and then in the top corner there's you in 5 minutes and 23 seconds. This deal will expire. Your seats will no longer be held, and you're like, what do I do? And that is exactly what they want you to do: is panic and say, all right, I'll click it, because you don't have time to ask questions.
We're here to tell you, don't panic. Mm-hmm. Don't panic. Do your research, like we've talked about in another video about booking your cruise or your all-inclusive, and I'll link that in, as well as Jo's other YouTube channels in the description.
Thank you.
If you want to ask her a specific question, you can comment below, and I will get it to Jo. Or you can email her at
gojotravelandtours@gmail.com. So
that's right. Your Gojo Travel. She does these amazing trips to Italy. She's a specialist in that regard. Her family's from Italy. Mm-hmm. She's fluent in Italian.
I teach Italian.
She teaches Italian, and
I just love the country, and that's how my travel experience started. Was I was bringing people to Italy and wanted to make it more formal, so that I could help people with the price and with all that stuff. And Diana at Rochester Travel Group was like, come work with us. And so we do the group excursions of Italy every so often, every couple of summers. And I just love doing them, and they're so much fun. So then, I started booking other things, and then travel insurance came in because we make sure that we offer travel insurance to everyone who does that.
So the questions that we're going to go through, we're going to answer them one by one. Some questions that we've gotten, and some things that maybe people won't realize. And we're going to
try to keep Carter under control, because clearly he's so excited about this.
So we've already talked about, you don't have to click that little box. Mm-hmm. Don't panic.
Can I make a suggestion about that? My suggestion is to be preemptive, right? So when you go to websites, and especially if you're someone who travels frequently, when you go to a website, before you get to that page, if you're starting to look and say, these prices look good, this looks like a place I might want to book it with, before you go through that process, read their travel insurance information. So Kevin and I were talking quite a bit about this yesterday, and the biggest thing to me that the most important part about looking at travel insurance is that it covers your needs. And so it's not going to be one size fits all. We work specifically with one travel insurance company at the agency because we have found that they are the easiest to work with. They're the most inclusive of different kinds of situations, and they are the ones that are most likely to help you get a rider, which is an add-on for things that are specific to your situation. So a couple of things you want to look for is you want to look to see if they cover what portions of the trip they cover.
Right. So if you're not just all about the price.
Right.
I mean, you really need to sit down, and I talked with Frank about what we talked about yesterday, which is he's going to create somewhat of a checklist that you can go through when you're looking for your insurance. You know, am I looking for pre-existing condition coverage? Am I going on a trip during a time where I might be working?
Right, in terms of if you work in an industry that you could be on call in short notice because you have a deadline, or if you change jobs and you get a new job and they're like, yeah, if you're going to take this job, you can't take that vacation. You know, those things aren't necessarily covered. So the first thing you want to look at is what is covered. Typically, when you're on a site that's booking a cruise or booking airfare, it covers that portion that you are buying through them. Now, travel insurance companies are, if you think about them, kind of like auto companies. You get your car from, let's say, Chrysler, and then you don't necessarily get your auto insurance from Chrysler. You get it from someone else. But if you're there buying the car and they say, get this insurance from us now, you don't have time to comparison shop and do those kinds of things. So
that's a perfect point that you just brought up. Shout out to our subscriber Jeremy. He had asked us if he has to buy his travel insurance through the cruise line that he's booked his cruise with.
And the answer is no. Now, I don't know what the cruise line would say to you, but I will tell you that travel insurance is, like I just gave that example, is its own separate thing. So if you were to put in a claim with travel insurance, the travel insurance doesn't necessarily go to the cruise line and say, do we have permission to pay this person back? You know, it's all up to what you signed and what your contract with them is.
Right, they're insuring you.
Right.
They're not insuring that cruise ship. They're not. They're insuring you as a person, and they're there to mitigate your damages if anything were to happen.
So if I can go through some of the reasons we like the travel insurance company we use, that might help people with things that are. So one thing that we really like is that they cover pre-existing conditions if you make payment within 2 weeks of purchasing your travel.
So now, you are on a deadline.
For this particular company, and that's why you got to really read the fine print, because it's, and you know, and if I can, I recognize, and we've known each other for 25 years. We were basically in utero. We've known each other for a really long time, and I know how much, for you, vacationing, part of it is booking the vacation and the excitement of going online and looking for the best deal and finding, I mean, that's part of the trip for you, right? So I wouldn't want to ever take that away. However, sometimes people will say, well, yeah, I'm not going to go to a travel agency, or I'm not going to go to a travel agent because I do my own stuff online. Which, again, if that's what you enjoy, that's great. But please understand that those companies online that you're booking with are travel agencies, right? So the prices and the brokering and the deals that go to them are the same ones that go to the person in the office down the road from you, who you can text, who you can pick up the phone, and you can ask these questions to directly. So I would encourage people not to immediately rule out working with a travel agent or a travel consultant.
And a lot of people might say, gee, are there still travel agents out there? Mm-hmm. Of course there are.
Yeah, absolutely.
There always will be. Mm-hmm. And
like I said, those companies are travel agencies, right? So if you go on Travelocity and you book something, Travelocity is a travel agency. They're a travel company. So the information like this, you can either get it by doing your research and using a chart and a checklist and figuring out what you need, or you can go work with someone, and you don't have to buy even all your travel from them. You could book your whole trip. You got your airfare, you've got your cruise, you've got your excursions, you've got whatever, and then you need travel insurance. You could at that point email me and say, this is how much my trip cost, because that determines the price of the travel insurance. These are the people on the trip, and this is their ages and the state that we live in. Those are the things that affect the price. Are those things, and I could say to you, here are your options. Here are the different kinds that we look at. So you don't have to go to a travel agent for every single piece of it as well. So the one thing we like is the pre-existing conditions are covered not only for yourself, but for your close family members. If you purchase the travel insurance within 2 weeks of booking. So an example of something we had one of our tours of Italy going. It was our biggest group going, and we had a participant who, I think 3 or 4 days before we left, her mother took very, very ill. And what her mother got sick with was a pre-existing condition. And so she had to cancel the trip. She couldn't go, but she was reimbursed. So,
and it sucks because you're not going to be able to go on your trip, but
it lessens the blow, right?
Yeah, it really lessens the blow.
Right. So the other thing we like about this travel insurance is it covers everything. So it covers in one place. So the price is good too. We've found it very, very competitive, especially if you include that it's comprehensive. It's for the whole trip. So when you put a price and when you aggregate everything together, so you've got whatever pieces are.
Your pieces. Let's say you're getting insurance for me.
Okay.
And we're going on a cruise.
Okay.
And you know that we use GroundLink when we arrive for our transportation, so that would be covered. It would include that price.
Well, we would start with your airfare.
The airfare for me to get there.
Mm-hmm.
The cruise portion.
The cruise portion, your transfers to the cruise ship, and if you get in the night before and you want to stay in a hotel, or the night after, if your luggage is lost and you need to purchase, they give you a dollar amount that you're able to purchase clothes or toiletries or whatever for, based on however many days it is that your luggage is lost. So that would be covered. If your flight is delayed. If you miss sail away and you need to be helicoptered to the first port, that can be very expensive, especially if you're talking about last minute. They cover that. It covers medical expenses if you take ill and you are somewhere else.
You need to be medevac.
Yeah, any of those kinds of things. You have to check to make sure that those things are covered. And you also want to check where you're going, what's covered. As we had an incident, we used travel insurance one time, and that one time, the amount that was reimbursed to us will never end up paying in insurance. I mean, it was significant. We were in Europe visiting family. We weren't even on a big trip or whatever. We had been. I'd done a tour of Italy, and then we went to spend a week with my family, and then we were on our way to Spain. And my wife took ill, and we had to bring her to the hospital. We had to come back. We had to cancel the flight to Barcelona. We had to cancel the hotels, the excursions, the flight back, and we had to purchase. We had to change the date of our flight home. So we had a fee of, I believe it was $250 each.
Yeah, a change fee.
A change fee.
And chances are, if it's something like that, the flight is going to be a lot more expensive.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So that's what happens. If you have to leave somewhere suddenly, you've paid everything, right? And so they charge you a $250 change fee. And then very often they'll charge you the difference in the airfare as well. So if you got a ticket, it does stink. If you got a ticket for $200 and the last day that ticket costs $600, so it's $250 plus the $400. So they get, and it covers those things. So the thing that was interesting is we were in Italy when that happened. In Italy, there's no cost for healthcare. So you have to look at where you're going too, what the healthcare, I mean, that's just, especially if you have a lot of viewers with disabilities, those are big things, just like you would check ahead of time for accessibility and things like that, you're going to want to check for what coverage there are. There specialists that in the area of what you need and things like that. But that's a different topic, sorry. On the flip side, we had friends who were on their honeymoon on a cruise, and one took very, very ill in Greece and had to stay there for, oh my goodness, 2 weeks in the hospital, and they didn't have insurance. And I mean, it was It was rough. It
could be devastating to your finances.
It could. And
we always get insurance.
The spouse couldn't get a hotel because you're going to have to watch your expenses and stuff. So for peace of mind, if anything, the other thing you want to look at for travel insurance, not only is you want to look at who it covers, because I know that a lot of times families, when I have families who go on vacation, we like this particular travel insurance because kids are free. So,
well, there you go. You must remember yesterday when we were talking about this.
It made me think, yeah.
Sarah wrote in and asked if it covered children.
But not dogs. No. I don't think it does. I wonder, if that's something you want to look into. I
wonder if they have
covers pet
travel insurance. We'll look into that.
Yes, we will check.
We will check.
You'll never need it,
and we will have that information and the answer to that. But again, in the description sometime.
But again, that's one of those things you want to look into and ask. I know that you mentioned earlier about work stuff. The travel insurance we work with, they have 3 different plans. They have a light plan, a regular, and a max, whatever, coverage. And some of those cover work and some don't. But you might not need all the other things it covers in a higher level of protection. So they have riders, which I mentioned earlier. Riders are add-ons that you pay a certain fee for. Right. They might have a pet rider, like if something happens to my pet and I need to come back or I can't leave. That's worth looking into. I've never had that question before, but that's definitely something worth looking into.
It's very similar to auto insurance, because some people have full glass coverage. That's an extra rider. Some people don't.
Right, and flood insurance and things like that. Yeah. So my biggest suggestion would be proactive. Like investigate, find out what's out there. If you would like, you said you were going to put my email address in there. If people do want to talk to me, email me. Even if they've already planned something and they just want to say, hey, can you send me towards an insurance company? I'd be happy to do that.
And your email is?
Gojo Travel and Tours at gmail.com.
For any reason you want to email us, Cruising with Wheels, rochester.r.com. You can comment below.
Yep, and I'll try to make sure to check the comments frequently and see if there's questions and stuff. And I won't be replying as Gojo, because I actually don't have a YouTube channel for Gojo.
Are you kidding me?
Well, you've got the travel covered, right? I mean, we got travel stuff. I come to you, and and running stuff is me. So Kevin, may I? Mm-hmm. Kevin and I were discussing yesterday that I really, really want to do, what I do on the adult onset runner is, I was early 40s when I started running, and prior to that I was really out of shape, and I would get winded walking down the driveway to get the mail. I just was not athletic in any way, shape, or form, and still not really, but I discovered running and went from literally couch potato, unhealthy person to lost a lot of weight and running and active. And I wanted to share that with people. But I also understand that people have limitations. And I do have one episode that's about walking. And I have some friends, one who injured her knees and can walk but can't run. So I would love to talk about ways that people who are with limited mobility can move forward and get healthy. But I would love to do a show with you and I where we are moving forward and not creating harm to your leg, and being able to figure out ways to help you go forward. Now,
many of our viewers don't even know that we created this YouTube channel. It was Frank's idea.
I think it's awesome
to show everybody that you can go on a cruise, you can travel. You just have to do it differently. Mm-hmm.
Differently abled is what we like to say sometimes.
He's in a wheelchair because of his illness, but in '97 I had cancer, so I have problems with my mobility. Mm-hmm. So
more specifically, it wasn't just, more specifically, you had a large tumor resting on the muscle of your leg and cutting off the circulation, and you can't be on your feet for very long, let alone, so it's not, it's not we see somebody in a wheelchair and we say that's someone who has a mobility issue. Sometimes you just look at somebody, you can't tell, right?
Yep. Sometimes you just don't know.
You just don't know. And I know that I would love to go on an adventure with you. We've had so many, but we would have to figure out how to do it in a way that doesn't compromise your health. And so I'd love to do that. I'd love to.
Yeah, we're going to set that up. Yeah. We're going to do that.
Okay.
I think it would be great, and it will also kind of, I think, prove to our viewers that it can be done. I was going to do another video about me walking on the ship, because I walk every day on the ship. I say it's all about moving. You just got to move. And when we got home, we were on a 10-day on the NCL GEM, and when we got home, I looked at my pedometer. I didn't look at it at all when we were on the ship. And I walked 52 miles.
It's crazy. 10 days.
52
5 miles a day.
10 days. That being said, what you're able to do.
I mean, I'm not disabled or physically challenged now. But when I started running, I had a lot of mobility issues. I mean, I had a floating kneecap and Baker's cysts, and I could, I had trouble going forward. And it is a very, very slow process, and you need painstaking and patience needed to understand that it's about where you're at and going from there, which is the whole reason I started that channel, the Adult Onset Runner channel, is the puppy with the passy is just fun, right? Like, whenever he does something that I think is insane, I pull up the camera. So that one's random. I don't have like a posting schedule or whatever. But for the Adult Onset Runner, I mean, it really is a passion for me. Like, this is for you. And it comes down to the same message, which is you do what works for you and at the pace that works for you. And my saying is, you can either race and run to be better than other people and beat other people, or you can race and run and be active to be a better version of yourself. And if we can keep those things, I prefer the latter. And if you keep that in mind, yeah. Travel insurance.
I think that's a good place to leave it. I mean, like we've discussed, you have to do your research. Mm-hmm. There is no one size fits all. There is not a Walmart of travel insurance. So do your research. Mm-hmm. You have your budget. Mm-hmm. You find out what you're going to need, whether it be riders for work or pre-existing condition. Mm-hmm. Go to our Facebook page, and we'll have a checklist that'll help you decide how much insurance you need, and what your priorities will be.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I mean, and the other thing that we didn't really touch on as much is to look at the one that's there and see what it covers and what the limits of reimbursement are as well. And then cost compare. Right. Mm-hmm.
So,
travel is supposed to be fun. Vacation is supposed to be fun. Sometimes things happen that aren't as much fun. So you want to have as little stress as possible in those times.
Peace of mind. And so remember to go to Puppy with a Passy, Adult Onset Runner. Make sure you subscribe to our channel and hers. So until then, we want to remind you to cruise often
and travel safe and insured.
And insured.